questions like, where's the deer? Do you know this person? I was constantly visited by them, and each and every time I let them search my apartment, and I answered all of their questions. People were calling the police station and accusing me of all kinds of things. I was even asked about a missing child.
Kero the wolf is back in the spotlight, not for a comeback, but because of the disturbing allegations that shook the furry community years ago. This time he's not just trending. He's the central figure in a brand new true crime documentary that reopens one of the internet's darkest rabbit holes. You see, the internet is a very vast, strange, and at the same time, wild place. There's room for everyone and their preferences. From regular stuff like siblings doing a trendy dance to the not-so-regular stuff like the existence of furries. Yeah, furries.
People involved in this story are
Furries.
Furries are a subculture of people who are interested and often identify with anthropomorphic animals. These are animals with human-like characteristics.
What is a furry? Someone who enjoys anthropomorphic creatures.
Hey!
It's fun and loving and diverse.
Furries can be kind, creative, and yes, incredibly diverse. But like any community, there's a darker side, and that's one that most would rather not talk about.
I got a call. We have a problem in the community.
There were these postings of videos and pictures with living and deceased animals.
There were people so twisted.
And they are hiding.
For a long time, the relationship between the world's societies and furries has been a complicated one. And the existence of people like Kero the wolf only puts further strain on that relationship and set the community back over 50 years.
Hi guys. A lot has happened in the past 2 years. I want to take a moment and explain why I left YouTube before we get into everything.
Kero the wolf, whose real name is Joshua Hoffman, is a beloved furry creator who successfully built an online empire and then got exposed in a scandal so bad that it almost destroyed his life. Everything he built, it almost ended with him in jail.
Everything happened all at once. I was getting accused of new things right and left, and I was completely taken by surprise. Honestly, I couldn't believe the stuff they were accusing me of.
When details of said scandal dropped, we hear allegations of zoocism, necrophilia, pedophilia, and general animal cruelty. Just to give you an idea as how bad these claims are, it's alleged with actual evidence that Kero abused his pet and family dog Coda, who eventually passed. And when he expressed feelings of guilt to his sadist friends, they suggested using the dog together and dismembering the dog before eventually killing it, but only with Kero's consent, because what kind of furries would they be if they used and ended a man's dog without his consent? These scandalous revelations sent massive shockwaves all through the internet. People were confused, irritated, and gagged almost all at the same time. The details of the act carried out were gory, with conversations around having intimate relations with young puppies, roadkill, and even humping a dead fox, which Kero himself admitted to in the leaked Telegram texts. This prompted a police investigation to be carried out into the matter, and due to the mountain of evidence that was available to the public, many were certain that he was gonna get locked up. But surprise, surprise, that was not the case. The investigation from the police came back as inconclusive, and Kero was let off the hook. He subsequently returned to YouTube, trying to clear up his name and restart his channel by first dropping a video that said, "My Side," where he explained that his phone was hacked and that all those allegations were made by someone who was trying to tarnish his image. But his tale was a very bogus one, and not a lot of people believed it.
Really? That's just insane. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. No thanks, I'm good. I'm good.
In this video, we're going to cover the full story of what actually happened with Kero, how he got popular, how the leak happened, and where he is today. Kero was born on the 29th of May, 1995 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He first entered the furry world under usernames like The Dogman 2 with his Fur Affinity account before he settled on the now infamous moniker Kero the Wolf on his YouTube channel, which he created on the 7th of July, 2013. His earliest content mostly revolved around what you'd expect from a furry creator. There were fursuit vlogs, Q&As, convention recaps, and also tutorials. His first video on his YouTube channel was a coverage of a fur convention, or something of that sort, where a furry was seen playing with a groom attempting to crash a wedding but ends up taking just a picture with them. That said video was also posted on the same day that the account was created.
Steven.
Kero kept posting on his channel consistently with all sorts of videos related to furries content, and sure enough, over a short period of time, he was able to charm audiences with his charismatic creator style and was able to grow his account to a few thousand subs before he was eventually noticed by mainstream creators like Shane Dawson.
Hey, what's up you guys? Yes, welcome back to the weird side of the internet, and today we're going to be talking about furries. Now, if you don't know what a furry is, basically it's a person who wears an animal suit and they take on a fursona. And some people like to have in the suits and some people don't. Me personally, like that's the first thing I would do. But I found a furry on the internet named Kero the Wolf, and he has a YouTube channel, and we're gonna go in.
Hey, I got some big news.
Sorry, that was a lot.
He was a big YouTuber at the time, and he saw Kero as a positive representation of the furry subculture that's often misunderstood by outsiders. After a while of digging around Kero's content, Shane was almost like a fan of his work. Before long, he reached out and arranged for the pair to meet over a live session, which happened on Shane's channel, which was just shy of 10 million subs at the time.
Oh my god. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
This is a dream come true. Oh my god. You look like a real animal.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, how did you come up with your fursona, which is what it's called, right?
Yes. I always been a really big fan of wolves. I know I look like a fox. Everyone says I look like a fox, but he's actually a wolf.
So like you were a fan of something and then like you took it too far.
During the interview, Kero, wearing his fursuit, was well received by Shane, and they started talking about the whole furry society. They talked about the age varieties, the different furries, and Kero also admitted that there was a side to all of it as well, a confession that required a big gulp for Shane to keep down.
Furries, which is that it's a solely thing. And a lot of you guys say it's not, right?
It's not. Honestly, the age variation in furries, it can go anywhere from a person to be 12 years old to like 60 years old. There's a huge range of ages in here. So most of the furry fandom is not there is a side to it, but it's not that large.
Right.
Most of us do it for like a hobby or a lifestyle.
Right. Well, we'll get to the hobby and the lifestyle in a
But then Kero started narrating how he got into the furry world, and how he did it so unintentionally. He narrated that he was heavily into werewolves and that he only wanted to get himself a cool wallpaper for his laptop. Then he saw a picture of a couple furries together with full fursuits on, and his interest was piqued. He says that he eventually used that picture for his laptop, and later on a friend saw it and asked him if he was into furries.
I was into the whole werewolf thing, you know, grr and stuff. But I was looking for a werewolf wallpaper for my computer, and these like fursuits showed up. I'm like, oh my god. And I clicked on it, I set it as my wallpaper for like a week, and then my friend pointed out, I'm like, you like furries? I'm like, well, what's a furry? Holy crap. So I looked it up and I got dragged right in.
At that time, he wasn't vested into the subculture enough to even know what that meant, so after he went digging, in doing so, he found out that the picture he used as a wallpaper wasn't a photo shoot, it was actual people at a furries convention. He now went on to create a Twitter account as well as one on Vine, Fur Affinity, and lastly, a YouTube account too. After this revelation by Kero, fans of Shane began to understand why Shane was drawn to him in the first place. They saw an authentic guy who just had a weird passion and they couldn't hate on him. This interaction did so much for the reputation of furries and much more for Kero and his career as a YouTuber. The exposure he got from Shane's platform was massive, as Shane would often cajole his fans to subscribe to his channel and show him some love.
subscribe to him, show him some love.
And just like that, Kero was at over 90,000 subs by the end of the month. Shane had just shot him into stardom, and although he wasn't anywhere close to the actual stars of YouTube, he was a star in the world of furries. In the following month, he made a top 10 list of most influential furtubers, which was again supermassive for a guy who only harbored dreams of getting to like 10,000 subs. By 2018, Kero was already a quite established name across YouTube and other fur-centric communities. He was also one of the most followed furtubers at that time, cementing his place as one of the big dogs. Little did he know that he was about to become a lot more famous, but for the wrong reasons. On the 16th of September 2018, the bombshell was dropped. A Twitter user named @Zoodonym leaked a number of logs. The logs contained archived chats from a Telegram group of people that shared an unusual preference for animals. The chat log dump titled "The Zoo Sadist Evidence Mega" began circulating in the niche internet spaces before breaking out to the mainstream internet spaces like Twitter. The files, totaling over 500 megabytes, contained gruesome videos, images, and chat logs from a group of individuals engaged in acts of extreme animal. This conversations wasn't just bestiality, it included detailed discussions in media involving of different animals and pets, dogs, foxes, and puppies, and other pets. It was at its most depraved level. At first, nobody really paid attention because most people thought it was just going to be a bunch of furry people drama that nobody really cares about. But when another user by the name of @Mordecai reshared the content, he gave a stern warning that was bound to raise people's curiosity. After Mordecai's repost, more and more people started looking into the leaked logs, and the revelations in the chats were disturbing. They also found out that the logs were not just the chat history for a few hours or days or even a week. It was very extensive, spanning almost 2 years in total. And all the names that were revealed in the leak, a few of them stood out, but none did more than Kero the Wolf, the same beloved YouTuber and one of the most followed furries in all of social media. The files included logs allegedly from Kero's device, showing him discussing animal with other members of the group. Some conversations were vague. Others were very explicit, describing brutal acts in chilling detail. Some of the detailed entries contained in the logs were actual videos of some people of the group performing so many grotesque acts on innocent animals. Since the videos can't be shown due to YouTube guidelines, here are some tweets that describe some of the acts carried out. The first tweet describes a setting with Kero in his suit head, forcing a medium-sized dog to do horrible things to several toys. Then the real thing. He the dog afterward. The dog runs out of the video several times and retracts and gags from the. In the next video, there was a tied and muzzled German Shepherd, and the dog was originally abused. The next tweet describes a video where a small dog is. And the final but most gruesome tweet describes a video where a puppy is drugged and strapped to a log. Although it was later revealed that it wasn't just Kero in these videos, he had some of his other furry friends involved too. But that didn't change the fact that he was still involved in the scandal. Kero quickly released a statement denying all the allegations, stating he had been hacked and framed. He maintained that he had nothing to do with the conversations or videos being shared. He argued the logs were doctored, pieced together, and faked. His statement read, "Furries and drama. Before you go around believing these rumors about me, know the facts. My account was hacked. I would never do any of these things. These are faked conversations." He then continued in a subsequent tweet saying, "If you choose to believe it without thinking about it logically, then fine. Become that troll online who has that mob mentality, but always look at both sides first. I didn't do this. It should be obvious that these logs are fake. They don't even talk like me." With these responses, you can see how desperate Kero the Wolf was in trying to defend himself, seemingly trying to gaslight everyone into accepting his innocence, basically saying you either believe me or you are a troll. But one piece of evidence that was also included in the shared logs was a screenshot showing Kero's Telegram account being manually deleted. This undermined his initial claim that his account had been hacked, a story that he tried to sell using a screenshot showing that from a different account had logged into his Telegram account, and the said user was from Iran. And maybe this could have convinced people that he was really hacked for 2 whole years and didn't know. If he had stopped here, maybe he would have had some plausible deniability. But that wasn't to be the case for Kero. In further screenshots, as he did everything he could to save his name, users saw that he was also using a VPN to access his Telegram app, meaning that his claims that a user in Iran, a country where Telegram was already banned for months when these allegations surfaced, somehow gained access to his account. The key icon at the top left corner was what gave him away, as that was the symbol that Android phones used back when a virtual private network was turned on. Kero tried to deny that he faked his own hack by saying he always uses a VPN, and that the icon being there doesn't change anything. But the community wasn't convinced. Twitter threads dissected every detail of the leaked logs. One user on X with the name @KeroArchive went digging and was able to find that Kero the Wolf had 2 different Reddit accounts linked to his Gmail, one of them being the regular Kero the Wolf account that most people knew already, and the other was a burner account where he perpetuated his Zeus acts. It was under the name You the Dogman 2, and he had been in talks with a known puppy Tim Amoroso, who used an account, YouDogSat. Their conversations were very explicit, with talks about reality, where Kero asks Tim if he had any materials with coyotes, foxes, or his apparent favorite, dogs. In another sickening interaction between the two, Tim agrees with him and brags that he's been with many dead canines, both young and old, adding that young ones are the best. He also says he's been with a range of animals from dead mice to rats, dogs, cats, deer, goats, and even sheep. The conversation continues, unfortunately, as Tim admits to killing critters to satisfy his necro needs. Then Kero responded saying he could never bring himself to kill another creature and relies mostly on roadkills or animals that die of natural causes. These conversations would probably trigger a gag reflex in a weaker man with vivid imagination, but these are the realities of what was reported about Kero, and this is a confirmed account that was used by Kero, as the internet sleuth that discovered the account revealed that it shared the exact same email address with his original account on Reddit. A watchdog group called the Furvengers began compiling evidence and reaching out to authorities. Soon it was revealed that Pennsylvania State Police had executed a search warrant on Kero and seized his devices. While that was also going on, they also started to gather evidence from the leak and compare it to the publicly available evidence to prove that Kero was the one in the videos, pictures, and other media included in the leak. First up, they pointed to one of the images in the leaked media, and they found that in one of the videos, the shoe worn by the perpetrator of the violating act against the animal was wearing a pair of shoes that has earlier been spotted in one of Kero's appearances at a Furry's meet and greet. This adds to the pile of evidence that points to Kero the Wolf being guilty of all the accusations that were being leveled against him, but it doesn't stop there. An excerpt from the leaked chats shows a conversation where the allegedly hacked Kero is talking about one of their many atrocities and then professing his love for vor. For those that are not familiar with the term, vor is a kind of paraphilia that generally involves the consumption or the desire to be consumed in an unusual manner. And after seeing this, the sleuths began digging. And after a bit of digging, they also found that the real Kero has also occasionally mentioned that he shared the same love for vor, even doing as much as celebrating what he called Vor Day on the 8th of August. So, not only is Kero the Wolf being framed for extreme levels of indiscipline by an Iranian, he's also coincidentally has the same weird preferences with a said Iranian hacker. Still going through the chat logs, more and more correlations start to reveal themselves. Next up, the location that was disclosed by Kero the Wolf from the leak as his house address is somewhere around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He says he's only about an hour and a half from there. You know who else was also living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time of this leak? That's right, the real Kero the Wolf. Again, is this just coincidence, or maybe the hacker is also a mind reader? Lastly, users were also able to notice that in the leaked chat logs, there are messages from the alleged hacker posing as Kero. In the said texts, he was appreciating the effect that being on an episode with Shane back then did for him in the furry fandom. He claims that the video went well and that it also helped the fandom a lot. Then adding that he went from 10k subs to 67k subs. Again, we see that this alleged hacker seems to know so much about the personal life of the real Kero, from his kinks to his house address, and even the number of subs that he has, as well as the growth and impact of Shane in their career. Looking at all the evidence logically, it now becomes harder to believe the story that Kero the Wolf was selling. Despite all of this incriminating evidence, no charges were ever filed against Kero. First up, the case in New York. Kero has his case brought to the police in the state, as the state is where his parents lived with the family dog Coda. with the dog being the reason he traveled back so that he could regularly do unspeakable things to the poor family pet. While the police decided to carry out their proper investigation into the matter, they were faced with an almost impossible task, as neither Kero's parents nor him would budge nor cooperate with them. Kero's parents refused to grant access to the police officers who requested access to search the property, including the garage where he videotaped himself abusing the family's dog Coda. At the end of the day, they were forced to end the investigation due to a lack of cooperation, resulting in lack of evidence conclusive enough to press charges, as the video evidence from the leak was deemed too old to be used as the sole evidence against him in court. Back in Pennsylvania, a different case was reported to the police over there. While the New York case was over, the Pennsylvania case seemed sure to get him convicted, but that was still not the case. He was yet again able to avoid any conviction. This raised a storm of speculation. Some argued the case had fallen apart due to lack of admissible evidence. Others believed it was a matter of prioritization, saying the authorities didn't see prosecuting a fursuiter for online logs as a high-value case. Others still thought Kero had powerful allies shielding him from consequences. Meanwhile, other individuals named in the leaks were being investigated and charged. Tim Amoroso, who had a deep conversation earlier in the video with Kero in the Reddit sub for Necros, was eventually on the run for his violent and abusive crimes against animals, as more and more people started spreading word about him and his disgusting acts. It was also later revealed in a letter that he wrote to a podcast host that he was under investigation and also in a rehabilitation program for a while now. And while people are glad that he's finally facing some semblance of justice, there's still this begrudging feeling that he deserves a lot worse for his crimes. And that feeling was somewhat justified when Twitter user @KeroArchive later revealed that he was back herding puppies. The user also revealed that he was the one that helped another one of Kero's friends that was exposed in the leak, Snake Thing, assault a puppy and film the whole act that they carried out in a motel room. Eventually, Snake Thing was apprehended by the authorities. He was convicted on 4 counts of encouraging child and 6 other counts of encouraging in the first order, and this resulted in a 25-year prison sentence that was given back in 2019. His sentence prompted people who knew about him and his heinous crimes to discuss his conviction, with the general notion being that he deserved the sentence and probably even more. Other members of the ring that were also compromised in the 2018 leak were either doxxed, harassed, and then removed from all corners of the internet, while all of them but Kero the Wolf, the most high-profile name on the list due to his pseudo-celebrity status at the time of the leak. He managed to stay out of jail, but that didn't save his reputation. Soon enough, his YouTube channel became a hostile war zone, with comments flooding in, calling him every nasty name in the book. But most of those negative or even slightly critical comments were deleted immediately, as Kero and his team of moderators made sure to keep the comment section as clean as possible. But at the same time, there were a fair amount of people who bought his story. Like this user who said that the human race targets the furry fandom to try and get rid of them, and it's not going to happen. And in between the love and hate, some people were genuinely confused and didn't know who to believe. But on a bunch of his videos, the hate comments were so overwhelming that Kero was forced to turn off the comments section once. Once fans realized just how heavily moderated Kero the Wolf's content became, their next move was to start mass flagging a bunch of his videos in hopes that YouTube would take them down, and that would cause Kero to quit. But yet again, Kero had the upper hand as his videos stayed up. The next and apparently final step was to massively unsubscribe from his channel, and that worked for a little while as many of the subscribers unsubscribed overnight. Kero still had a healthy enough number of subscribers on his YouTube channel, which was about 85,000 subs still, a slightly significant drop from the previous 100,000 plus subs that he previously had. In an attempt to salvage what was left, Kero resumed mass deleting any negative comments and issuing copyright strikes on channels discussing the allegations. But this move only backfired. It was seen as censorship, just another guilty man trying to silence the truth. By early 2019, Kero had almost completely vanished. There were no new uploads, no tweets, no responses, no nothing. After that, he reappeared briefly that year to post a final video that was supposed to be him announcing his exit from the fandom. He blamed his exit on the toxic mindset of the community, describing himself as a victim of mob mentality and reiterating his innocence. But for most, that wasn't enough. They wanted accountability, not a farewell tour. For the better part of the next 2 years, Kero the Wolf remained silent still, Then sometime in 2021, a post first emerged on the same Twitter account that he used, but under the new name Radiance Wolf. This was quickly noticed by fans, and they pointed it out that he was trying to rebrand subtly. Then on his YouTube channel, he also posted a new video after a long break. In the video, Kero made a last-ditch attempt to rewrite his history. The video, titled My Side, recycled the same defense that he'd used from yesteryears. The logs were fake, the screenshots were fabricated, and he had been targeted by jealous trolls. Once again, the comments were initially disabled, but was soon reinstated with heavy moderation that saw tons of comments deleted. The backlash returned. But this time there was a fatigue in the air. Viewers had moved on. The new generation of furry creators didn't want to revisit the old drama. But the old guard never forgot. They made sure to remind everyone of what he actually did and how he got away with it. By 2023, Kero the Wolf had just rebranded again. Only that this time he was ditching the fursuit entirely. He adopted the VTuber personas like Lolcow Lunari and Haken Yote. He was also using voice changers, anime avatars, and new usernames regularly, as Kero attempted to rebuild his presence in internet subcultures. But internet sleuths were quick to track him down every time. It's always either they match his speech patterns, the timestamps, or social media overlaps, and even slip-ups in livestream just to confirm it was him. Each time his presence was confirmed, the community pushed back. Some viewers left comments warning others about who he really was. Some creators posted PSA videos, others just ignored him, hoping the lack of attention would make him disappear for good. And maybe it worked, because by 2024, the VTuber channels had gone quiet. The last known upload from Kero in any form was over a year ago. As of 2025, Kero the Wolf has stayed mostly quiet until recently, when it was announced that there would be a documentary on him done by AMC Studios. The documentary, that's titled The Furry Detectives, Unmasking a Monster, premiered on the 17th of July, releasing the first out of 4 promised episodes. The reaction has been a mixed bag as well. Some people are trying to stay optimistic and hope they'll tell a factual story without bias and not necessarily attack the furries communities just because of a few bad actors in the community. And so far, it doesn't seem like it's so bad. The first episode is out, but it's reported by a user on X that Kiwi farmers review bombing the documentary on IMDb because the show's writers or director allowed a certain Naomi Akami, who's famous for saying she's a wolf on all levels but physical, and they let her take all the credit for exposing Kero the Wolf and his cohort. Also, Kero came forward to announce that he would be doing a reactionary series in response to the documentary that was about to be released. And believe it that as promised, Kero the Wolf came out of retirement or exile and made his reactionary video today. In the video, he wasn't wearing his usual costume and instead opted for an animated version of himself. He starts by reminding everyone how we got to this stage.
How we got here. As I'm sure many of you know, about 7 years ago, I was at the center of a serious controversy. Law enforcement and local state and federal agencies conducted a full investigation that lasted 2 years. And in the end, I was not charged with any crime. That is not just my word, that is a matter of public record. But I understand that for some people that is not enough, and it will never be enough. The internet is quick to judge and slow to forget. I get that, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about everything over the years, not just on what happened, but who I want to be moving forward. I know this whole thing left a giant scar on the fandom, and I want to apologize how I handled my response to it. I was accused of something that I didn't do, and I didn't know how to handle a situation like that. I don't think anyone really does.
The intro is basically the same message of his apparent innocence that he's been preaching since the start of this controversy 7 years ago. After that, he explains how he got dragged into the whole documentary, saying that it took no less than 3 calls to get him to finally accept to be part of the whole project, as he was the center of almost everything that happened back then, and was also the most controversial of all victims of the 2018 leak.
On social media from this guy claiming to be a producer that's working on a documentary. And for the sake of, I'm not really into showing people's identities and faces and profile pictures. So for the sake of this video, he's going to be called Mr. Director. So anyway, Mr. Director sends me a message saying, "Hey, I'm a documentary producer making a film about furries and how problematic amateur detectives can be. Would you be interested in talking with me?" When I first saw the message, I was a little, hesitant, I guess the word would be, because Honestly, I always get a ton of messages, either sending me death threats, a lot of hate messages. Those are...
According to Kero, the director reached out to him and asked if he'd like to be in the documentary. But after the first call, he wasn't really feeling it. And that was the same feeling after the second call that they had as well. But on the third call, Kero admits that he was told that the story is going to involve him regardless if he joins them to shoot it or not.
I physically declined twice. I showed you the messages. I declined. I'm like, no, I don't want to be in this. But then they throw like, hey, you're going to be in this. So just, I don't want to throw that, description of like, I was forced to be in this, because ultimately it was my decision to say yes. But I felt like I was back into a corner. Basically, with the fandom, pushing me back so hard, I felt like this was my only choice to really set the record straight. But on the other hand, I didn't appreciate them just saying, hey, you're going to be in this, by the way, deal with it. So I freaked out a little bit. I'm like, excuse me? What? I don't understand. So he laid out what the documentary is actually about. He technically didn't lie in the beginning message that I showed you. It is about amateur detectives versus...
This was apparently the only way that he was going to be in the documentary, in his bid to rep the furry subculture again and make sure that they're accurately depicted and represented. Now, speaking of the actual documentary, Kero the Wolf claims that the producer had an agenda against him, and he just wanted to go with the pre-existing narrative.
Measurably disappointed by this episode. The producers clearly had an agenda when they interviewed me. They didn't want to find out the truth. They wanted to match the narrative and maximize drama. They lied to me to get me involved in this, even though I declined multiple times. Just, I guess that's Hollywood for you. Christ. But I guess first, let's talk about the detectives. The film frames them as actual detectives, but they are anything but that. They are not trained professionals by any means necessary. They don't have a forensics background. They are just people who are complaining about me. Secondly, I would like to go over the second claim, the disgusting forum. People are claiming that this is me, and it is not. First, I wanted to share some facts with you before we move forward with this. Let's look at the amount of people...
He then proceeds to try and debunk some of the facts that internet sleuths had dug and put out there, starting with his alleged second account on Reddit that was proven to be linked with the same email account that was used on his main account.
Forum. People are claiming that this is me, and it is not. First, I wanted to share some facts with you before we move forward with this. Let's look at the amount of people currently impersonating me. There's a lot out there, huh? You see how many accounts there are of this? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many more. People would take and steal anything that I posted on Twitter, FA, and YouTube and claim it as their own, all while pretending to be me. I can't believe the documentary didn't even attempt to look into this. The second point is, the forum said that the account was from Pittsburgh. Let's quickly look at how many people are in Pittsburgh currently. That's a lot, huh? But at the time, I wasn't living directly in Pittsburgh, the city. I lived in the greater Pittsburgh area. And that number is a lot higher. So let's look at how many people reside in the greater Pittsburgh area. 2.45 million. So just because a forum said...
His logic? Well, he says he's a famous person and has a lot of impersonators. Using that logic, he shows how many people are in Pittsburgh that could possibly be impersonating him. In the assumption that everyone in Pittsburgh knows who he is, talk less of impersonating him. Next, he tackles the allegations of him abusing his parents' dog, focusing on the fur patterns as that was what the investigators used to draw conclusions on the show. He counters this point easily by showing other closely similar fur patterns, and also teeth of other dogs that aren't his dog, but could show some resemblance when the photo is cropped.
Similar to each other. In the show, they did an overlay of a dog's mouth and said it was the same as my parents' dog. Okay. Let's do the same here. This looks very similar to what was in the documentary, but let's look at the full photo. See? Completely different dog. His fur patterns are just similar. That was a picture I found on Google. Still not enough for you? Okay then, let's do it again. In the documentary, they showed a video of a blurred dog's fur. So let's replicate that. Looks similar, huh? But that is a completely different dog. This was another picture that I found on Google. Look how similar these fur patterns are on all of these dogs. The dog in question could have been anyone's dog. You're comparing blurry photos and videos of dogs and saying that it's the same dog my parents owned over 10 years ago, even though they clearly are different dogs with similar fur patterns.
He also adds that he never physically had a dog in 2014, and it was just his parents that had one, and he would never hurt the said dog as he's not a monster.
In 2014, I moved to the States to go to college, and I never moved back to New York. My parents had a dog that I cared for before 2014, and the fact that you people think I hurt him is disgusting. He was my best friend, and I would never hurt any animal. I'm so tired of people saying I did this. So let's look at what we just discussed. Thousands of people are currently, and have been for many years, impersonating me. I have been making content since 2012, and ever since I started making content, people have been impersonating me. That's the whole deal with being popular. People are going to do that. You can find that on any creator out there. People will always try to impersonate the popular guy. The fact that this is even an argument in the documentary is just insane. We already know that a ton of people impersonate me on a daily basis, and just because of profile.
At the end of it all, Joshua Hoffman today still denies any wrongdoing because he was not convicted of any crimes. He's probably having an O.J. Simpson moment. As of today, no criminal charges have ever been filed against Joshua Hoffman. His devices were seized, his name was dragged, but he never saw a courtroom. In the eyes of the law, he's a free man, but in the court of public opinion, his name is synonymous with something much darker. What makes the Kero case so complicated isn't just the severity of the allegations, it's the ambiguity. The lack of formal charges leaves room for doubt. The evidence is horrific but fragmented. Some argue if it was enough to prove guilt. Others believe it was circumstantial at best. But what can't be denied is that Kero the wolf went from a beloved figure to a pariah in record time. This scandal also exposed a larger problem within niche online communities, which is self-policing. But without legal consequences, the story ends as it always does, with outrage and then silence.